Only 8 people on that film set knew who Bruce Lee really was. Chuck Norris didn't. The camera crew didn't. The assistant director didn't. Even the stunt coordinator standing 15 feet away had no idea what was about to happen. Chuck Norris had just said 6 words that would change everything. "I'll go easy on you, Bruce." 11 seconds later, Chuck Norris went completely silent. His confidence shattered. His understanding of martial arts fundamentally altered, and those 8 witnesses would carry what they saw for the rest of their lives. This is what really happened on October 17, 1972. This is the story they never forgot. Rome, Italy, Colosseum grounds. October 17, 1972. Tuesday morning, 9:15 a.m. The film set for The Way of the Dragon is in full production mode. This is Bruce Lee's directorial debut, his first time controlling every element of a martial arts film from script to final cut. The production has rented the ancient grounds near the Colosseum for 3 days of filming. Italian authorities granted special permission. 42 crew members are scattered across the location. Lighting technicians adjust reflectors in the morning sun. Sound engineers run cables across ancient stone. The smell of espresso from the catering truck mixes with cigarette smoke and hydraulic fluid from the camera equipment. The atmosphere is tense, professional. This is a serious film production on a tight schedule and tighter budget. Every minute costs money. Every take matters. And today's scene is the climax. The final fight. Everything leads to this. Standing at the craft services table, drinking coffee, is the man Bruce Lee specifically requested for this role. Chuck Norris, not yet famous, not yet the action star who would dominate the 1980s, not yet the cultural icon who would inspire internet memes decades later. Chuck is 32 years old, 5'10" tall, 175 pounds of championship karate muscle. He's been training in Tang Soo Do since age 18, 14 years of dedicated practice. Black belt 6th degree, the highest rank achievable at his age. 6-time professional middleweight karate champion, undefeated across 183 consecutive tournament victories spanning from 1964 to 1968. His fighting record is unprecedented in American karate history. He holds titles from every major tournament. All-American Karate Championships winner 1967 and 1968. International Karate Championships Grand Champion 1968. His dojo in Sherman Oaks, California, trains over 200 students. His reputation in the martial arts world is immense, respected, feared in competition. Considered by karate magazines as possibly the greatest American tournament fighter of his generation. Chuck carries himself with quiet confidence, not arrogant, but assured. He knows his capabilities, knows his record, knows that in structured tournament karate, few can match his precision, his timing, his explosive power. He's fought everyone worth fighting in the American circuit, destroyed most of them. His longest match went 8 points, his shortest, 14 seconds, one perfect roundhouse kick. Chuck's journey to this moment started unusual. Born in Oklahoma, raised in poverty, painfully shy as a child, bullied in school for being quiet and small. He joined the Air Force at 18, stationed in South Korea, discovered Tang Soo Do almost by accident. Walked past a dojang one evening, saw men training, something awakened inside him. He started training 6 hours a day, every day, obsessed. The shy Oklahoma kid found his voice through martial arts, found discipline, purpose, power. By the time his military service ended, he was a different person, confident, capable. He returned to California, opened his dojo, entered competitions, won everything. His style is textbook traditional karate, deep, powerful stances, linear movements, explosive striking, tournament point fighting perfected. His signature technique, the spinning back kick, lightning fast, devastating power, almost impossible to counter. In 183 victories, that kick landed 67 times. Every time it landed, the match ended. Chuck has fought Shotokan masters, Goju Ryu champions, Korean stylists, Japanese traditionalists. He's studied their techniques, adapted, improved. He believes genuinely that traditional karate, when perfected, represents the pinnacle of martial arts effectiveness. But Chuck has a blind spot, a limitation he doesn't recognize. His entire fighting experience exists within one specific context: tournament karate, point sparring, rules, referees, controlled contact, judges calling points when techniques land with proper form, stop and reset after each exchange. His 183 victories all happened in that structured environment, against opponents following the same rules, using similar styles, operating under identical constraints. He's never experienced real combat, never been in a street fight, never faced someone who doesn't follow tournament conventions. His understanding of fighting, though deep within its domain, is fundamentally bounded by those invisible walls. Bruce Lee has been watching Chuck warm up for the past 20 minutes, studying. Bruce specifically requested Chuck for this role because Chuck represents something Bruce needs for the film: traditional karate excellence, the old way, the classical approach. Bruce's character in the film represents the new way: Jeet Kune Do, no classical forms, no traditional boundaries. The philosophical conflict Bruce explores in every film. But there's something else happening that Chuck doesn't know. Bruce isn't just preparing to film a choreographed fight scene. Bruce intends to make a point, to demonstrate something, to show the difference between tournament fighting and real combat, to prove, on film, for audiences worldwide, that traditional martial arts, despite their beauty and discipline, have fundamental limitations. The assistant director calls for final positions. "Talent to set, please. We're running camera in 10 minutes. Chuck drains his coffee, stretches his hamstrings, throws a few practice kicks. His movements are sharp, precise, powerful. Years of training evident in every motion. He walks toward Bruce Lee, who's standing near the camera discussing angles with the cinematographer. "Bruce, about the choreography," Chuck says, his tone friendly, professional. "You want me to go full speed, or should I pull the techniques?" Bruce turns, gives Chuck that slight smile, those intense eyes, focused and present. "Chuck, I want you to come at me the way you would in a tournament. Full speed, full power. Don't hold back." Chuck nods, appreciates the trust. "You sure? I don't want to accidentally catch you." "You won't catch me. I mean, I'll obviously pull the contact, but the speed, full speed, Chuck, full power. Come at me like I'm your opponent in the All-American Finals, like there's a trophy on the line." Chuck laughs, confident, not mocking but genuinely amused. "All right, Bruce, but if you can't keep up, we can always slow it down for the cameras." Bruce's expression doesn't change. "I'll keep up. I'm just saying, tournament speed is different than movie fighting. I've been competing at this level for 14 years. I know you've studied Kung Fu, but competition speed is another level entirely." Bruce nods slowly. "I understand." "I'll go easy on you at first," Chuck offers, trying to be considerate. "We can build up to full speed once you get a feel for my rhythm." And there it is, the 6 words. "I'll go easy on you, Bruce." Spoken without malice, without arrogance, just the natural assumption of someone who's been the best in his field for years, offering to accommodate someone he perceives as less experienced in his particular domain. The 8 people within earshot hear it: the cinematographer, the camera operator, 2 lighting technicians, the script supervisor, the fight choreographer, Bruce's friend and student, Dan Inosanto, who's also in the film, and the assistant director who just finished calling positions. They all hear it. Most don't react. It's a reasonable offer from a champion fighter to a martial arts instructor turned actor. But Dan Inosanto's eyes widen slightly. He knows what's about to happen, knows that Bruce Lee just received the exact motivation he was waiting for. Bruce's response is quiet, measured. "Thank you, Chuck. That's considerate." He pauses. "But I'd prefer you don't go easy. I'd prefer you come at me exactly how you fight. Your best techniques, your fastest combinations, everything you would do to win a championship. Can you do that?" Chuck shifts his weight, reads this as pride, as Bruce not wanting to appear weak in front of his crew. "Bruce, I respect that, but no handicap, Chuck. No accommodation. You and me, your best versus my best. That's what I want on film." The assistant director interrupts. "Gentlemen, we're burning daylight. Can we run this?" Bruce looks at Chuck. "Are we clear? Full speed? Your absolute best?" Chuck meets his eyes, sees something there he didn't expect. Complete confidence, unshakable certainty. For the first time, a small question forms in Chuck's mind. But his record, his experience, his 183 consecutive victories push that question down. "All right, Bruce, you asked for it." They move to their starting positions. The ancient Roman ruins form the backdrop. Colosseum arches frame the shot. Morning light cutting shadows across worn stone. Two men, 15 feet apart, preparing to demonstrate the difference between styles, between philosophies, between eras of martial arts. Chuck settles into his fighting stance. Junbi Seogi, ready stance. Back leg chambered, weight on the balls of his feet, hands up in traditional Tang Soo Do guard. His posture is perfect, textbook form, years of muscle memory evident, center of gravity low and stable, ready to explode forward with championship speed. His plan is simple. Start with his jab reverse punch combination to test Bruce's reactions. Follow with a roundhouse kick if Bruce shows any gap. His trademark spinning back kick if an opening presents. Everything he's done successfully 183 times. Bruce stands naturally, feet shoulder-width apart, weight centered and mobile, hands raised but loose, relaxed, alive. No deep stance, no chambered positions. To Chuck's tournament-trained eye, it looks casual, unprepared, like someone who hasn't fought competitively. The stance of someone who studies forms but hasn't tested them under pressure. Chuck feels certain this will be over quickly. Bruce will realize he can't match tournament speed. They'll slow it down, choreograph something that looks good for camera but doesn't require real combat timing. Everyone stays professional. Everyone stays safe. The film gets its climactic fight scene. Everyone wins. The assistant director calls action. Chuck moves first, steps forward with a perfect jab, his lead hand shooting toward Bruce's face. Tournament speed, real power. The technique that scored points against 183 opponents. The jab that's never been fully evaded in competition. Bruce's head isn't there, moved offline 3 inches. Minimal movement, just enough. Timing perfect. The jab passes through air. Chuck resets instantly, professional instinct, throws the reverse punch, his rear hand driving forward with championship power. Full hip rotation, perfect form. Bruce has shifted again, 4 inches to the left. Chuck's fist travels past Bruce's shoulder, missing by nothing, missing by everything. Chuck pulls back, recalibrates. This is unusual. Most opponents, even good ones, get touched by his opening combination. At minimum, they're forced to block, forced to defend, forced backwards. Bruce hasn't blocked, just moved. Precisely, minimally, like he knew exactly where the techniques would be before they arrived. Chuck increases the pace, throws a 3-strike combination. Jab, reverse punch, front snap kick. Tournament gold medal combinations. 47 championships won with this exact sequence. Bruce flows around it. Under the jab, outside the reverse, back from the kick. His movements are subtle, economical, no wasted motion, not flashy, not dramatic, just efficient. Chuck's techniques are hitting nothing but air. The camera crew is watching now, no longer focused solely on their equipment. Something unexpected is happening. Chuck decides to commit. Throws his fastest combination. Jab, jab, reverse punch, roundhouse kick to the body, spinning back fist. 5 techniques in 2.3 seconds. Championship speed. All-American finals speed. Bruce evades them all. Reading every telegraph, every weight shift, every chamber. Chuck's techniques arrive at empty space, precise calculations finding nothing. It's like trying to punch smoke. Frustration creeps into Chuck's technique. He's been fighting professionally for 14 years. Nobody evades everything. Nobody makes him look this ineffective. He increases power, commits fully to a roundhouse kick aimed at Bruce's head, his signature territory. The kick that's ended matches. Full power, full extension. Bruce steps inside, enters the arc where the kick has no power. His left hand controls Chuck's kicking leg at the knee. His right hand shoots forward, stops 1 inch from Chuck's throat. Extended, perfectly placed, perfect distance, perfect control. If Bruce wanted, if Bruce intended, if Bruce decided, Chuck would be unconscious. Or worse. The position holds for 3 seconds, long enough for Chuck to understand, long enough for the camera to capture, long enough for the 8 witnesses to register what they're seeing. Then Bruce releases, steps back, gives Chuck space. Chuck stands there, breathing harder than he expected, his mind processing. In 183 consecutive victories, nobody has ever made him feel slow. Nobody has ever made his techniques look ineffective. Nobody has ever caught his best kick and held a killing strike at his throat. The mathematical impossibility just occurred. The smaller man, the kung fu instructor, the actor, just completely dominated the 6-time professional middleweight karate champion. Chuck's understanding of martial arts cracks. Fundamentally, irreparably. Everything he believed about tournament fighting, about traditional karate being the pinnacle, about his own skill level, requires immediate recalibration. "Cut!" the assistant director calls. That was incredible. Are we getting this? Did we get that?" The cinematographer nods, stunned. "We got it." Bruce approaches Chuck, his expression respectful, no triumph, no gloating. "You have excellent technique, Chuck. Excellent power. Excellent form. Your fundamentals are perfect." Chuck is struggling to process. "How did you—" "Your techniques are perfect for tournaments," Bruce continues. "For point sparring, for controlled contact, for the rules you've mastered. But that system has limitations, patterns, predictability. I don't understand. Every technique you threw, I saw coming. Not because I'm faster, because your style telegraphs. The chamber, the weight shift, the setup. Traditional karate follows forms. The forms create patterns. Patterns can be read." Chuck's professional ego is shattered, but his mind is open. "You're saying traditional martial arts don't work?" "I'm saying traditional martial arts work within their context. But if you want to fight effectively against someone who doesn't follow those same patterns, who doesn't honor those same rules, you need to adapt. You need to be formless. Like water." The crew has gathered closer, listening. This isn't in the script. This is real. "Water?" Chuck asks. "Water takes the shape of whatever container holds it. Becomes a cup, becomes a bottle, becomes a river. It doesn't fight the container. It adapts. That's what real fighting requires. Not rigid forms. Not predetermined techniques. Adaptation to the moment, to the opponent, to what is actually happening rather than what you've practiced." Chuck is silent, processing. His 14 years of training aren't invalidated. They're being recontextualized. "Everything I've learned is wrong?" Everything you've learned is right for what it was designed for. Tournament competition under rules. But now you can expand. Go beyond the system, beyond the style. Discover what works for you in real situations against unpredictable opponents. The assistant director checks his watch. Bruce, we're losing light. Should we run the choreographed version now? Bruce looks at Chuck. That sequence we just did, was that real enough for you? Chuck nods slowly. That was the most real thing I've experienced in martial arts. Then let's keep it. Use what we just captured. Show the audience something true. Show them the difference between fighting by the book and fighting with awareness. You want to film me getting completely dominated? I want to film you learning. Your character in the film starts arrogant, ends humbled and enlightened. What just happened between us? That's the real arc. That's the real story. Chuck thinks about it. His ego, his professional pride, wars with his respect for what he just experienced. The respect wins. All right, let's shoot it. But after this film, after we're done here, I want to train with you. I want to learn what you know. Bruce extends his hand. Chuck shakes it. You already started learning. The moment you admitted you don't know everything, you opened the door. They spend the rest of the day filming the climactic fight scene. The choreography incorporates elements of what happened during that real 11-second exchange. Bruce's subtle evasions, Chuck's powerful but ultimately ineffective techniques, the growing frustration, the final submission. It becomes one of the most iconic fight scenes in martial arts film history. But the people watching don't know they're seeing something that really happened. They think it's Bruce Lee's choreography genius. They think it's movie magic. They don't know that Chuck Norris genuinely learned on camera that everything he believed about fighting had limitations he'd never encountered. The 8 witnesses knew. The cinematographer knew. The camera operator who captured the initial exchange knew. Dan Inosanto knew, wasn't surprised, had seen Bruce do this before. The assistant director knew. The lighting technicians knew. The script supervisor knew. The fight choreographer knew. And Chuck Norris knew. Would never forget. Would carry that 11-second lesson for the rest of his career. After filming wraps, after the crew disperses, after equipment gets packed, Bruce and Chuck sit on ancient Roman steps. The Colosseum visible in the distance. Evening falling over Rome. Italian October air cooling. Chuck speaks first. I've won 183 consecutive tournament matches. I thought that made me one of the best fighters in the world. Today, I realized I've been fighting in a very small arena. Bruce doesn't disagree, doesn't offer false comfort. Tournaments are valuable. They test timing, distance, technique under pressure. But they're not fighting. They're a game with rules both sides agree to follow. Real fighting has no rules, no referee, no points, only what works in that moment against that opponent. How do I learn what you know? First, you forget what you think you know. Not discard it, not reject your training, but release your attachment to it. Stop seeing Tong Soo Do as the answer and start seeing it as one tool among many. That's hard. I've dedicated 14 years. And those 14 years gave you incredible fundamentals. Power generation, balance, timing. Those don't disappear. But now you build on that foundation. You add different tools, different perspectives. You keep what works. You discard what doesn't. You stop asking, is this good Tang Soo Do? And start asking, does this work for me? Chuck absorbs this, feeling the familiar structure of his martial arts identity loosening. It's uncomfortable, but also liberating. What do I practice? Spar with people from different styles, box with boxers, grapple with judoka, fight outside tournament rules. See what happens when your opponent doesn't follow the patterns you've learned to counter. Find your gaps, your weaknesses, then address them, not with more kata, not with more forms, with live practice against resistance from people who fight differently than you. And the philosophy? The BeWater concept? That comes from practice, from experience, from getting hit by things you didn't expect, and learning to adapt in the moment rather than referring to predetermined responses. Water doesn't think, "What technique should I use?" Water responds, instantly, naturally. That's the level I'm pointing toward. Not thinking about fighting, just fighting. They sit in silence for a moment. Then Chuck asks the question that's been forming. Would you have stopped that strike at my throat if I hadn't stopped moving? Would you have pulled it? Bruce's expression is serious. I stopped it because you stopped, because you understood. The fight ended the moment you acknowledged the technique. If you had continued, I would have continued. That's the difference between sport and combat. In combat, you finish. But we weren't in combat. We were in a learning moment. You chose to learn. I chose to teach. Chuck Norris returned to California different than he left. He continued his tournament career, won more championships, retired undefeated in 1974 with a final record of 183 wins, 0 losses, 0 draws. But he changed how he trained, brought in boxers to his dojo, invited judoka, studied different styles, began developing his own system, Jeet Kune Do, a blend of Tang Soo Do, judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, boxing, taking what works, discarding what doesn't, adapting, becoming water. He launched his film career in 1977. Breaker became one of the biggest action stars of the 1980s. Good Guys Wear Black, The Octagon, An Eye for an Eye, Lone Wolf McQuade, Missing in Action, Delta Force, Walker Texas Ranger ran for 8 seasons, 203 episodes. He became a cultural icon, but he never forgot October 17, 1972. Those 11 seconds that shattered his understanding and opened his mind. He told the story rarely, only to students who reached a certain level, only to people who could understand the lesson. I thought I was the best, he'd say. I had the wins to prove it. Then Bruce Lee showed me I was the best within a very limited context. The moment I admitted I didn't know everything, real learning began. Bruce Lee died less than 1 year later, July 20th, 1973, 32 years old. The Way of the Dragon was his final completed film. The fight scene between Bruce and Chuck became legendary, analyzed by martial artists worldwide, studied for its choreography, its philosophy, its representation of style versus formlessness. Most people watching have no idea that the core of that fight scene wasn't choreographed, that Chuck Norris genuinely came at Bruce Lee with championship speed and championship power, that Bruce Lee genuinely evaded everything and countered with a killing strike he chose not to complete, that the humbling on screen was a real humbling, that the lesson taught in the film was a real lesson taught on set. The 8 witnesses carried the story, told it in martial arts circles. Some believed, some dismissed. Movie set stories always get exaggerated. But Dan Inosanto knew. The cinematographer knew. The footage existed. Not the choreographed final version. The raw first take. The 11 seconds that changed Chuck Norris. That footage remained in Bruce Lee's archives, later examined by students, later studied by historians, later confirmed as real. October 17, 1972, Rome, Italy. 9:15 a.m. 8 witnesses. One man who said, "I'll go easy on you, Bruce." 11 seconds later, that same man sitting in silence, his worldview shattered, his mind opening. One lesson delivered with precision and mercy. One student humble enough to receive it. One teacher generous enough to give it without destroying the student's spirit. Chuck Norris became a champion again, bigger than before, wiser than before, because he learned the most important lesson in martial arts. The moment you think you know everything, you stop growing. The moment you admit you don't know everything, you begin becoming. Bruce Lee knew this, taught it, lived it, died before most of the world understood. But Chuck Norris understood, carried that understanding into every fight, every film, every lesson he taught. BeWater, my friend. Not a metaphor, not poetry, not movie dialogue. A fundamental truth about effectiveness, about adaptation, about evolution, delivered in Rome, received in humility, remembered forever. The day the championship fighter became a student again. The day Bruce Lee proved without anger, without cruelty, that real mastery transcends style, transcends rules, transcends ego. 8 witnesses, 1 lesson, 11 seconds, forever.